Now for Global Business Updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. Money Monday, here we go. September is on. Let's take a look at what to expect this week. It's going to be all about the U.S. non-farm payrolls. So today, of course, is a holiday. In the U.S., it's Labor Day, so the markets are going to be closed. Tuesday, we're going to get S&P PMI August manufacturing numbers. We actually got PMI numbers for China, which is why we saw some markets down there. We're going to get to that in a moment. Wednesday is the Federal Reserve's Beige Book, which is commentary on the economy. Thursday, ADP, Automated Data Processing, they are more on the private sector. They will be giving us their August employment survey, how many private sector jobs were created in August. And then Friday is the big one, U.S. non-farm payrolls. I think they're expecting about 114, I think. Or is it 115 to 20,000 jobs, if not higher? So we'll see what those numbers present. The Asian markets opened in mixed bearish regions today, mostly in China, dragged down by those manufacturing numbers, which we'll get to in a moment. So the Shanghai Composite Index was down. The Nikkei 225 in Japan, that's up. Hang Seng over in Hong Kong, that led the losses, 1.76% drop there. ASX S&P 200 in Australia, that was up by about 22 basis points. So to China now, this is now a 6-month low for the manufacturing sector in China. So your Purchasing Managers Index is basically a survey that is carried out where you ask different questions to manufacturers. So if you are below 50, you are in contraction territory. If you are above 50, you are in expansion territory. You can see August there, 49.1. Again, 6-month low. The forecast was 49.5. July was 49.4. And for non-manufacturing, though, I think non-manufacturing was at 50.3. We get to Nigeria now. You've talked about this extensively, but let us actually put up the statement from the NNPC, the press release, just to read the very first paragraph so that everybody knows what's going on. So NNPC faces financial strain due to PMS supply costs. And you already know what those costs are. It is the under recovery, it is fuel subsidies, because they are being made to bear that cost. So the first paragraph saying that the NNPC has acknowledged recent reports in national newspapers regarding the company's significant debt to petrol suppliers and the financial strain. So just to be very clear with Nigerians everywhere, so what is, as the sole importer, selling something below market price, having to pay that difference, that is basically what, and you already know that the government told the NNPC, take the dividends that you're supposed to be putting into the federation account, use those dividends and pay for fuel subsidies. So that, just to be very, very clear, that is the issue we're facing here. There's also the issue of smuggling, which Heineken Lopobori, the Minister of State for Oil, brought up over the weekend. But before we get to him, this is Chika Mbono, Arise business analyst, touching on this weeks ago when this fuel scarcities began. Take a listen to what he said.
It's like when the smuggling was a lot, we said, came to the and said, see, why is diesel not being smuggled? Because the price was marked to market.
Exactly.
And so there was no business there. So the attraction for PMS was substantially subsidized. And across the border, there was a leverage for the smugglers to push it across there and make profit. And so you don't see diesel, aviation fuel being smuggled.
Right.
Even kerosene.
Right.
Because the prices are marked to market. So as far as we want to continue to enjoy cheap fuel, with NNPC as sole importer, it's going to be a problem.
There you go. So as long as you want to enjoy cheap fuel with the NNPC as the sole importer, this problem, these supply issues, I don't know how people have stopped talking about smuggling. It's called arbitrage. Arbitrage is when you have a mispricing of the same asset in two different locations. Smuggling has continued because fuel in Nigeria is cheaper. So you're smuggling it at a cheaper price and taking it across the border to sell it at a higher price. Heineken Lopobori, Minister of State for Oil, he actually brought this up at a forum. Take a look at the quotes from him here. He says, if NNPC imports PMS and sells to marketers at perhaps 600 naira or below, there's no way that smuggling can stop. When smugglers are taking the products outside the country, even if you put all the policemen on the road, they are Nigerians. You and I know the answer. So, again, the essence here, the issue that we are facing is that PMS must be sold at the open market price in order to dissuade not only smuggling, but to end these financial constraints that are being faced with supply. If it continues, you will continue to see the supply issues that we're facing. Let's get to electricity now. I've said several times, you got to focus on the states. Some very good news here. 6 states, according to the Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, now have the authority to regulate their own electricity markets. So basically, they have adopted provisions from what the NERC is doing, and they're going to now be able to set their own prices and carry this out independently. So Enugu, Ekiti, Ondo, Imo, Oyo, and Edo State. Those are the 6 states, and according to NERC, there are more to follow. We have a special guest on the Global Business Report who is an advisor on the Governors Forum, so you'll be hearing from him later on that. And then also, still on electricity, Nigeria has signed an MOU. They put out a bid, competitive bid. The Chinese, 3 Chinese entities, manufacturers of meters, responded and won that bid. So this is an MOU that has been signed to provide at least 1.4 million meters to scale. You know, we have a metering gap of 7.1 million prepaid meters. It's part of this distribution sector recovery program funded by the World Bank to the tune of about $500 million for a particular facility. Speaking of facilities, let's talk Zenith Bank. Second quarter earnings coming in a few days ago. Net interest income at 408 billion. Loan impairments did rise, 359 billion for the bank. Operating income coming in at 677 billion. But look at that pre-tax profit for Zenith Bank, 406 billion. I think their half year could be heading, pre-tax profits could be heading upwards of 700 billion. Zenith Bank could actually be on track if it keeps this up to actually put pre-tax profits of 1 trillion naira by the time the year is over, if that continues. Finally, we've got a special report from a company called 1X, which is headquartered in Norway, but has an office in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. They're saying that humanoid robots are going to be coming to homes very soon and carrying out different tasks. Here's just a little tease, a little snippet of a robot carrying out some tasks as it goes into a restroom.
So what we have here is a policy that our Android Studio team member, Brian, trained by himself.
Open door. Go to toilet.
This is not produced by the AI team, but rather a capability that was learned using only data collection and a no-code interface that we built here.
Lower seat. Leave restroom.
There you have it. That's some of the autonomous capabilities we're training on Eve, and we'll be bringing those to Neo very shortly. You can see there when it was leaving the door, it bumped into the door, but that's totally fine because the compliance of the robot really is making sure that we're designing these robots to come into contact with the world, even accidentally sometimes, which it will happen.
All right, so do tune in at 11:30. We'll bring you that full report. That's the future that's happening right now. Robots will be washing your car, doing your dishes, and so on and so forth. That's our update for today.
Rotus, definitely. I'm sure you probably need one of those companion robots, We all need them one way or the other in our lives, and that's the way the world. Yeah, that's the way the world is. Probably we could cuddle on one, isn't it? Moving on. Just a quick jab there. As regards NNPC. And that's why it's not good for a government agency to lie. Because when you lie, you lose credibility. Yes, they've now come out in the open. But to a large extent, a lot of people that are saying they should go to market, they can't go to market with this level of corporate governance. A couple of people have to go in the NNPC. I'm not naming names, but I'm sure by the snap of a finger, we know people that have to go. Secondly, some assets need to be sold, like I said before. We cannot continue this way. You have 4 refineries that are moribund. Obasanjo was right when he said, let's sell those refineries. But some people still went to lie to Yaradua to take those refineries back that they can revamp it. So we can now see that what NNPC is saying is that that over 1 billion spent on Port Harcourt refineries down the drain now as we speak today. Also, we need to be able to sell down on some of the assets we have as JVs and things like that. Then concerning smuggling, see, we can also use technology to stop smuggling to a reasonable extent. You are the proponent of technology here. We can use blockchain to be able to incentivize the system, to be able to reduce it. But those that are in there, like in the NNPC, will not allow that happen. Because we see what happened even with crude oil theft that NNPC is spending 1.7 trillion on, but it's not abating. And Lokpobiri said something. He said, as long as we know that they are Nigerians, he knows what he's saying. I think that's the most honest thing. Is it that Nigerians are thieves? I don't think we are thieves. But he knows that there's a high level of complicity that happens in the system every time. So that's what he meant by, as long as they are Nigerians. So how can we change that level of complicity? Because in this same country, we had refineries that cracked our own oil. It was not this bad at some point. All of a sudden, we have all of this cost increase. We need to be able to do something once and for all to fix this energy. And I don't believe you should sell energy at open market prices. There's something called energy security in every nation. The nation is going to collapse out of the weight of inflation. That's what's happening already.
Right, so Rotus, since the NNPCL story obviously is a big one this morning, I'd reached out to Mr. Femi Shoneye this morning just to clarify a few things from his release. And some things he mentioned, and I'll just talk about them shortly. The first thing that the NNPCL is very keen to assure Nigerians is that they have a mandate for energy security. Unfortunately, it does seem as if that's not quite working out because we have seen queues, we've seen panic, and we've seen a number of people, not being able to have access to PMS especially. So that, in that regard, there might be some questions that they need to answer to Nigerians. The second part of that, of course, is with regards to this nomenclature of what some people have regarded as subsidy. What they've said is that this shortfall is called a shortfall, that they are importing at a particular price, but selling at a price that does not meet the cost price. So they are making a loss, in effect, with regards to what they're paying. And so that's responsible for this, $6.8 billion that they are owing international oil traders. But the end of the day is that we are not paying the real value of what PMS should be. What are the alternatives? We've had conversations around this, debate around this as to whether or not fuel price should be increased or not. I know where you stand on that. You've always argued for let us pay more for fuel, for PMS. But the truth is that if you look at the reality of many Nigerians and the economic reality of Nigeria, we're not ready to pay that amount of money. Especially, let me put forward today the case for business owners, especially small business owners. If what Mr. Heineken Lokpobiri is saying is that, let us pay the market value of it, then the government must put some kind of intervention. It will not be called subsidy, again, another nomenclature, to ensure that small businesses do not collapse under the weight of the cost of running business or doing business in Nigeria. It's either that or we fix the power issue. But, we're not even ready for that conversation yet, despite the $800 million investments the Minister of Power has said they are putting into the sector. But something's got to give. I agree with you. We have to pay some more money to stop arbitrage, to ensure that we're not owing or, posting losses or not using dividends or profits to defend or to pay off, losses. But something's got to give. If not, we're going to put a lot of pressure, especially on small businesses, and they might not just be able to survive.
Okay. Minister of State for Petroleum, Senator Heineken Lokpobiri, saying that, we have to sell at open market price for us to be able to check smuggling. No, it's not going to work out that way. Because, he may be honest in saying there is smuggling. After all, there is crude oil theft. There are, old pipelines that are vandalized easily by people. I think it is ridiculous for a Minister of State for Petroleum to come forward and say, the government cannot check smuggling. Even if you sell at open market price, that smuggling will continue. Under Dr. Ibe Kachiku, as the Minister of State for Petroleum, we were told there will be metering to monitor how fuel, crude is taken out of Nigeria. What has happened to the deployment of technology to which so much money was spent? So I don't think that, Minister Lokpobiri is saying the right thing, because even when we sell at open market price, is anyone thinking of the social consequences? People are already buying at 1,000 naira. By the time you sell at a much higher price, then of course, Nigerians will cry blue murder. So there are other sides to the economistic argument. We all know that fuel subsidy originally is not sustainable. But can we address some of those issues that need to be addressed? As for China, the major composite indexes the Shanghai Index, the Shenzhen Composite have not done well, even since China removed, removed the restrictions after COVID. We've been seeing, the economic data going down, which is what happened to the manufacturing index that you talked about. PMI, as you pointed out, was projected at 49.5, but it came in at 49.1, which is very low. But non-manufacturing did well, coming in at over 50%. So the question is, what should China do? China would have to provide fiscal support and also boost consumer spending. So the question is, what options are available to China? On the other hand, in the United States, everything looks green. From Wall Street to all the other indexes, inflation is tame, the job market is strong, consumer spending has increased by 0.5%. You mentioned August non-farm payrolls, which we're expecting. There's also producer price indexes that we'll be expecting a few days later after that. All of this is leading towards the Federal Reserve meeting. The Federal Reserve meeting scheduled for September 17 to 18, and the expectation is that there will be a rate cut. Before I go, one more comment. The Supreme Court of Brazil is going to sit this morning to take a decision on the case determined against X and the Elon Musk organization by Alexandre de Moraes. The system in Brazil is that you have two chambers of the Supreme Court. No, Alexandre de Moraes has now asked the first chamber, of which is a member, to disagree or agree with his decision that X in Brazil must have a legal representative and that it must lay itself open, to investigations in terms of hate and misinformation. Of course, Elon Musk characteristically says de Moraes is a dictator, but he has the support of the Supreme Court Justice Barroso. But we'll see how the case is determined today by the Brazil Supreme Court of Justice. Thank you.